We're getting closer to draft day. The Chiefs have types, they have rumors, they have things. Will they get the fits they need? Matt Derrick's here to tell us that today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. We are ticking down to the NFL draft. We thank you for joining us and making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen. All the information that you can want or need is going to be out there, and it starts at ChiefsDigest.com, where you can get Matt's work. Also over on Chiefs Digest on YouTube, 41 is the mic. He's got a number of outlets like we usually do. Matt, thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, where right now it is out, it is available. The draft guide is done. And if you guys haven't seen this before, you know how we do this. It is the athletic matrix. It is our film grade matrix, as well as our production metrics, all rolled into one, graded out, as well as all the little bits and pieces about what a player is and can be. And I have a code for you. I'm only putting it here on audio, so use LOC, and you can get yourself a nice little discount on there. Go get that today at rogueapc.com, and I think you'll enjoy the draft just a little bit more. You can also get the athletic matrix. It's out there, and you'll see my draft board will be released on NFL 33 for free this year. A free post should be out a couple of days before the draft, so you can study that, and you'll see my rankings and all that stuff there as well. So make sure you check that out, Matt. I have a ton of things going on, and I'm always behind. So we're going to talk crazy scenarios like what I'm going through right now. Well, that's coming up later in the show. We're going to go through some fits, whether we like them for the Chiefs or not. This is not just about grades and what a guy's capable of, like the fit in Kansas City. That's coming up next. But we start with rumors, visits, and lies. And that's the thing. More than maybe any year that I can remember in the last 6 or 7, the last-minute visits are playing a big role across the league. The Chiefs are included in that. We talked last week about Josh Simmons. They just had him in. And it checks a box for you, right, on what the possibilities in this draft now are.
Well, I mean, if you have Josh Simmons in for a visit, it at least acknowledges that you're thinking of drafting him. You've got him on your board. Whether he's still on your board after you visit is another question. But there's just no way you can take Josh Simmons without having him come in for a visit. So with the knee injury, so that's the first marker, is that yes, you've got to, if you're considering drafting Josh Simmons, you got to have him in for a visit. I mean, he's being invited to the draft now, so the NFL is pretty convinced he's going in the first round. So maybe he'll still be there at 31. Maybe he won't. Maybe they're convinced at least somebody is taking him if they're inviting him to the draft. So that clearly would indicate that somebody in this league, if not multiple somebodies, is considering taking Josh Simmons in the first round. So that's probably at least a decent indication about how his rehab is going, that at least there's some teams that are certainly pleased with where he's at. But then, it's still a question mark. Are you going to get anything out of Josh Simmons in year one? Or is it going to be a redshirt year?
Yeah, that's really the big question. He did perform drills for about, 3.5 seconds at the Ohio State Pro Day. You can garner whatever you want from that, folks. I'll probably show that to you over on RGR or something. It's not a lot, but for where he is versus when the injury occurred, I do take that as a positive sign. And the fact that he's on the Chiefs board, as you said, that is an indication that at least it's an investigation. I think that is all truth. The lie that comes in here in this particular trio is that a lot of people around the league, especially talking heads, even some in Kansas City who ought to know better, have made definitive statements about what is or what isn't going to happen. And offensive tackle is not off the board, whether it's Simmons or somebody else. Let's be real. There are multiple needs. There are few prospects. As my board has shaken out, there are fewer and fewer at those two positions of offensive tackle and defensive tackle that are legitimate first-round grades. So I don't think either of them are off the table. I think that's a complete lie. Where do you stand?
Well, I think you make a really, really good point, especially with both of those positions, because there's a lot of talk about how deep this defensive tackle group is. And it is deep once you get to the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. I mean, there's a tail to it. But, I've probably only consistently seen, maybe one name that's a consistent, first round pick for a defensive tackle, and the rest are, borderline first and second round players. And offensive tackle, is the same way. I mean, you've got basically maybe really only two. I mean, Will Campbell and Armin Minbu are really the only two that you consistently see as first round picks. I mean, then it gets really questionable. I mean, Kelvin Banks, I mean, some people have him as a guard. So, I mean, is he legitimately a tackle? I mean, and that's the really thing is that even Campbell and Membu are not great left tackle candidates. I mean, for a left tackle market, there's some decent right tackles and future NFL guards. There's almost no left tackles. Josh Simmons is pretty much the only one. And that knee is going to be the absolute focal point of the whole thing. And it's not even that knee as much as it's just the knees in general. Because I unfortunately know from unfortunately personal experience that you rupture one patella tendon, there's pretty good odds you're going to rupture the other one. But because, oftentimes, I mean, patella tendons can, just rupture, but usually there's an underlying reason why that one ruptures. And if that means that there's an underlying weakness in the other one too. So I have no doubt that the NFL teams that are having Josh Simmons come in, they're not only looking at that knee that was hurt just to see how the rehab is doing and how he's recovering. They're going to look at the other knee too, to just make sure there's nothing in there that's about to blow out. And they'll do that with every candidate who comes in. And that's the thing is that medicals will dramatically change a lot of players. I mean, there are teams that absolutely, once they see a player's medicals, won't consider them, or maybe they'll move them on their board. Obviously, there were NFL teams that weren't even considering about taking Trey Smith. I mean, the Chiefs were at least willing to take a risk on him, but there were other teams that were not. They wouldn't have even signed him as a priority free agent. That's the way that medicals in the league works. These NFL teams can differ widely, and I think Josh Simmons is a serious risk just because of the knee, because you don't know what you're going to be getting in year one, and he's not necessarily a bad pick for every team. I just think he's a really bad pick for the Chiefs because there's going to be a lot of expectations, and there shouldn't be any expectations on Josh Simmons in year one. You can't expect anything out of him. If you do expect something out of him, you're just asking for trouble. And then you don't know. I mean, and the Chiefs, can they really, in the left tackle need that they are, can they risk a number one first round pick on a guy that you're not going to know until 2026 about whether or not you made the right choice? I don't know. That's why I think that he might be a fine fit for some other NFL teams. I'm just not sure if he's a great fit in Kansas City, because I think there's going to be too much pressure on the kid, and putting that kind of pressure on a kid coming off an injury, I think it's just a double whammy.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I'm way more comfortable with it because I'm just looking at the performance that he's put on film. I know that I can reduce my own personal expectations because I agree it should be a redshirt year. If you select him, this is a pick for 2026 and the future of guarding Patrick Mahomes' backside. That is what it is. But there are other scenarios, some things that are fits and some things that aren't. We're going to get to those coming up next. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it free and easy to post for free on your profile with your network and get qualified candidates that you're looking for all in one place. So post your job. The new feature can even help you write job descriptions and then quickly get in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's the pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find the high quality hires right away. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. This is one of my favorite aspects that we can do, and that is just point blank opinion. You've done your research. I've done a ton of research. It comes down to not what everybody thinks. As you said, opinions vary across not only the media landscape, but certainly inside the league. It's about fit at the end of the day. And one of the positions that we were talking about in the first segment here was about the defensive tackle spot. And again, deeper position than most in this draft, yet not elite blue chip deep. There are a few, and there are several that have a couple of things about them that you worry about. Some rumors, just going back to the title last segment, about some guys that are falling include some guys in this position group, particularly Kenneth Grant, who I think is tempting for some Chiefs fans because of his girth and because with Derek Nani's departure, to having a zero tech or a one tech that you can rely on who can still get after the passer is really attractive, right? I think he's falling out of the first round at this point from everything that I'm hearing. That coincides with my grade on him as well. So that leaves one less person at that position group that could be an option for Kansas City. So the question for me becomes whether you have to acquire him via trade up or it just happens to be there. One of the other problem children, we'll call that, a lot of questions around not on the field, but about which fields he's been on, is Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, a fit that I particularly like for the opposite reason. I don't need him to take up blocks. I need him to rush the passer and give Chris Jones and George Karlaftis someone in between them that can actually get the job done and hit the quarterback. How do you like that fit? Is it hot or not?
I mean, I'm okay with the fit, and let's face it. I mean, the Chiefs, when they go about their board and they're talking about eliminating players with red flags or anything of that nature, there's certain things that scare them off and some things that don't. I mean, one, obviously the Chiefs, they don't like it when they hear anything about a player that maybe doesn't practice hard or their work ethic or any questions like that. And if there's any buzz about that, I mean, the Chiefs are really diligent about digging into that and finding out if there's any truth to it. Is it just a rumor? Is it just what goes around? I mean, the Chiefs will go in and talk to anybody and everybody that they can about a player to find out about that. I mean, let's face it. There were questions about Chris Jones, and that was the buzz, is that Chris Jones took off plays and things of that nature. I mean, I have my buddy Nick on the 41 is the Mike podcast will make the argument that's like, okay, Chris Jones was just left out to play every single snap, and at his size, when you do that, you're bound to take plays off. So it's just going to happen. And maybe that's the case with some of these players. Maybe, for big guys, especially in college, they may get played too much. And that's maybe why that thing happens. But the Chiefs will dig into that. The one thing that the Chiefs try to avoid, and like we said, they'll take chances and risk on red flags off the field. But the one red flag that they don't like is somebody who's just a bad teammate and somebody who doesn't get along, because the Chiefs are interested in winning championships, and they don't feel like that they're in the need to risk anything about having somebody come into the locker room and disrupt the chemistry. So that's why, I mean, if they're going to turn down somebody or leave them off their board for character issues, it's going to be for that. So, other types of red flags don't bother the Chiefs as much. They'll investigate them, and there's some that they'll tolerate, that they'll think, hey, wait a minute. You know what? This player may very well simply respond to Andy Reid's coaching and to Steve Spagnuolo's coaching, and therefore will fit in better. So, no, some of the concerns about Nolan in particular, he seems like a Joe Cullen guy, and certainly seems like a guy who would probably respond to the coaching.
I'm glad you see it that way, because I do as well. Another player, and again, this is about fit and opportunity, right? At 31, supposedly someone else is falling. I don't like his fit on the field as much, but he is a talent. He is a sizable wide receiver, and that is, I think, a sneaky need to bolster, not your starter ranks, but if you have injuries, if you have things happen, you got to have that. Territorial McMillan seems to be a guy that was very, very high in the beginning, and the closer we get to the draft day, the farther down he's being projected, more rumors coming, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure that the speed is there at 4.53. That's not what I'm looking for in the Chiefs offense. There's another player that we might get to here in a little bit that may actually fit that a little bit better, but value is value. And if somebody's falling down the board, is he somebody, McMillan in particular from Arizona, that you think might be worth or in the Chiefs target area, particularly if he does fall down, would he be hot or not?
Yeah, I get why he's, a popular amongst Chiefs fans, because you look at the size, 6'4", and everybody's talked about the fact that's what Patrick Mahomes really needs, is a big target, somebody who can go up and get contested passes that you can just throw at him and know that he's always going to be able to elevate above a defender and maybe make a play. I'm not convinced that that's entirely what the Chiefs need most at receiver, because they've and especially because, you look at Rashee Rice, and as much success as he had in the slot as a rookie, the Chiefs really view him as an X. They view him as, that kind of receiver on the outside. And they know in Xavier Worthy, they've got a great Z receiver on the other side opposite him. What do they need? They need a slot receiver. And who's the best slot receiver in this draft to me? I mean, I think it's going to be Luther Burden. And that's the other guy that's got the question marks. And I thought you were going to go when you talked about a talented receiver with question marks. I think Luther Burden would be an absolutely perfect fit. And there's probably a little bit of a Mizzou homer in me that's seeing that too. But like the speed, like the fit, the general consensus is that he's going to be a slot receiver in the NFL. And that would complement well with what the Chiefs have in Rice and Worthy. And once again, I mean, a guy that I think would fit in well and take to the coaching.
I like where you're at because you're going down the same path that I am. I didn't arrive at the same answer you did, but very, very similar thought process. We're going to get to the other scenario and what might get even a little bit crazier coming up next. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving away new customers an incredible way to get into the action right now. When you join FanDuel and you place a first bet of $5, you can earn up to $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy no matter what season it is. Now that March Madness is over, we're moving it on to the NBA. It's going to be baseball, and then we are going to finally get back to ball on the field for the NFL. From three-pointers to steals to assists to making those kicks, it's all here, and your chance is at FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Folks, make sure you check out ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest here on the YouTube platform, as well as 41 is the mic. All the spots that you can get Matt's content from, as well as ours. Don't forget NFL 33 if you want that draft board, and Rogue APC. So every time you have to have plan A, B, C, you have to have scenarios like all the way down into the teens, right? And we know that there are propensities for Brett Veach to either stick and pick, trade up. I haven't seen him trade back very often, which I think could be an interesting scenario. I don't anticipate that in this particular draft, but the number one thing that I think I want to see them avoid, and I think most of the fan base does, and I'm sure they do as well, is getting themselves in a situation where they're stuck at 31. They've been in this situation before. They've made some picks that they felt were the best they could do at the time. Neither have worked out in that particular hopeful destination. So, crazy scenarios. If worst case comes to worse, is there anything that you can see that they can be doing right now other than the pre-draft calls in aligning themselves to take a player that maybe isn't on everybody's first round list, but might be a fit in this particular offense or defense that makes them that sneaky pick if they're stuck at 31?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, it's so hard to, just kind of make the decision to decide at 31 because, hey, there's a reasonable number of consensus players that people think are first round picks. And honestly, I mean, there only might be about 15 of them. And then after that, it can go a lot of different directions. And there's going to be, I mean, we know it every year, especially once you get deeper into the first round, there's a guy that's going to get taken, late in the first round that there's going to be some teams that might say, wait a minute, we had a third round grade on that guy. And so there's going to be a second for sure. But, there's going to be some deviations. And, the question is, will the Chiefs be one of those, especially taking, that pick at 31? They've been in this spot before, and you're right. They have not always had success when they have wanted to be able to trade back. They haven't always been able to get it figured out and get it done. There have been a couple of times where Brett Veach would have preferred to trade back. There was just simply no trade partner. And, and some of it is simply that, jumping into the first round for a quarterback for that fifth-year option isn't that appealing anymore. Because let's face it, if you're a team and you're not ready to extend your quarterback after year 3, they're not worth picking up their fifth-year option. So, there's really no value there. There's a lot more value at other spots like tackle. And that's why I think that, the most interesting scenario that the Chiefs and Brett Veach could end up in is if he ends up at 31 and Josh Simmons is on the board. Is that a guy that you take? Or is that great because now you can trade out of that spot and get somebody to come up and get him and maybe is willing to pay a premium to be able to get that fifth-year option for him? Because a player like that, I think it's more valuable. And you see it with Trent McDuffie. There's a lot more value in that 5th-year option for premium position, other premium positions at corner, for instance, because like I said, you're not getting a 5th-year quarterback at a bargain price, because if they're any good, you're going to have to extend them already. It's the only chance that you can really get some leverage on some guys is like the Trent McDuffies, George Karloftis's, players at other premium positions that you can hammer them with we can pay you cheap on that 5th-year option, or maybe we can try and, meet in the middle and getting an extension done. So that's the thing. Now, if the Chiefs are stuck at 31, who is going to be the dark horse? I don't know. I mean, and this is hard for me because, Ryan, I don't know about you. And maybe it's just because of this draft and the way that it is. I don't know that I have any second round, caliber guys, late first, early seconds, that I'm just like, okay, that's the guy that I would take if I'm there at 30, 31, 32. I can't identify it. Now I can identify it in later rounds. I mean, there's other players that it's like, hey, the Chiefs are in the third or fourth. Here's the guy you take. I mean, I would probably take Ty Robinson from Nebraska way higher than anybody else would.
Oh, not higher than me, buddy.
I'm going to put you. I'm going to ask you a question. I never ask it. Who's that guy for you?
Ooh, there's a number of them. Ty is a top 100 guy on my board, so like it'd be third rounders. But both the players that I'm thinking of in this situation, with they're stuck at 31, and the consensus on them isn't true, and someone doesn't fall in love and take them well ahead of the Chiefs just because they're the one team that had them that ranked. They're both from Oregon for me, and they're both in the trenches between Harmon and Connerly. I think one or the other can be serviceable in the role that they're expected to play, and I think that's what matters in the end. So again, if you're stuck, you're stuck, but you have to go with best grade on your board at a position that you feel he can grow into. As we discussed with the Simmons scenario, with Jalen Moore's signing, you don't have to come in and be the starter. There isn't a gaping hole at that position that you must go fill as a rookie. So I think in that situation, both those players are guys that I could see growing into a rotation or a possible backup swing role as a rookie, and then being able to step forward into more of a starter type role. So that's probably where I land. But I like you turning the tables and giving me a question.
Well, I will add to this. I mean, and I could be completely wrong, and this is not really going out on a limb, but I just feel like if the Chiefs are there at 31, I mean, it's more likely than not a range of positions that they would take. And I honestly feel like we've talked about, offensive tackle might be the last one, because even though the Chiefs do need a right tackle, I mean, they need to prepare for a life beyond Jawan Taylor, and that's going to be happening sooner than later. So, the fact that this is just mainly a right tackle heavy draft doesn't mean the Chiefs shouldn't take one. But to your point, this team needs defensive line help. They need ends. They need tackles. Those are also premium positions. Wide receivers, a premium position, especially for this team. So those to me, and I'm going to throw corner in there too. I mean, the only thing that really surprised me is if the Chiefs just took a non-premium position, that they took a running back, a linebacker, a safety. I mean, that's not where I would fill that need. But there in the first round, you go to where the depth of your board is. And if the draft, be prepared to pivot with the draft. If one position goes heavy, and that all of a sudden means that, hey, you're getting a defensive end at a bargain price, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah. Hey, Michael Williams, come on down. Let's keep falling down the board. Last scenario for you. And this is the, we've been pals for a long time kind of scenario. If you are trying to work that trade back, you have the Titans and Mike Borgonzi at 35. You have Ryan Poles with both 39 and 41. You have Chris Ballard at 45. 45 is a little bit far for me to go personally, but I have to think that, like the nature, we work with our friends better than anybody else. Those guys have all worked together at some point or another, and some quite very, very closely. If you had to pick a scenario for a trade back, given the other team's needs in those three scenarios, who would you think is the most likely trade candidate to come up to 31 to maybe try to grab somebody?
Yeah, it's really an interesting group. And I would add a few more from that, second round that's behind the Chiefs, because it's not even just, some of those organizations where you've got, guys who might think a little bit alike in GM positions, but Carolina's got Brant Tillis that is going to be having a bigger and bigger role in the draft this year than ever before, and is also somebody that could be a point man in negotiations. The Chiefs have made draft trades with the Giants. That's a team that they work well with, and that's one reason why the Chiefs have traded with the Bills. They share a similar philosophy on draft and draft pick value. That's something that I think goes overlooked a lot, is that, Brett Veach has told me before that when you've got teams that, have different trade charts, you hear about the Johnsons and the Fitzgerald charts. When you got teams that use different charts, it's hard to make a trade because they can't agree on what the draft picks are worth. So, you look at teams that are familiar, and that's why, I certainly think that the Chicago, Tennessee, Indy, with former Chiefs people in GM personnel positions there, it's absolutely a possibility that you can make a deal with them because you're going to think alike. There's also a little bit of a concern the other way, that especially like Morganzi, does he want to make a trade with Brett Veach because it's too soon? Doesn't want to be seen as doing any favors for the Chiefs. I think that certainly that plays into it sometimes and has psychologically. But Giants might be a bit of a dark horse there. I mean, particularly because it's the Chiefs have gotten around, have had good relationships with the Giants. They've made draft pick trades with the Giants before. That might be my sleeper as far as jumping up a few spots. But there's I think maybe a half dozen teams that are in the first 10 picks of the second round that the Chiefs could make a deal with.
I think that's a significant possibility, especially the way the top 3 picks could fall. It may leave the Giants on the outs, wanting to get back into the first round. That's one of the sleeper picks that I have as well. But I will tell you this, no matter what, I am here for the craziness. Bring it on. I want to see action. And what I don't want to do is fall asleep until 31 and have nothing to talk about. So I appreciate you laying it out for us. We're going to do one more of these pre-draft, folks. Matt will join us for the Wednesday show next week, and we'll give you our last-minute thoughts and guidance to get yourself through the craziness, Matt. Thanks for settling us down and keeping me on the straight and narrow. I appreciate it.
And hey, when it comes to these crazy ideas and everything like that, you're probably going to be right, and I'm going to be the one that's the crazy one on the outside.
Hey, you never know. Once again, folks, you can get the draft guide over here at rogueapc.com and use that code LOC. We would appreciate it. Thank you guys for being here with us today. We very much appreciate it. Like, sub, hit the bell. Be back with us tomorrow as we start going down my top players at the position that you all want to know about. Have a good one. We'll talk to you then.